Hi, welcome to the On the Spot podcast where we talk to all people from different walks of life and recovery. The Spot Sober Lounge is a meeting hall, vape shop, custom shirt store, and nonprofit that does a lot of good for a lot of people in and out of the rooms. It's off of 43rd and Northern. Definitely go check it out if you haven't. Even if you have, go back. I know there's a lot of cool stuff there to buy, but if you can't, we want you there more than your money. I mean, don't get me wrong, we definitely want your money too. But just come no matter what, especially if you need to talk with someone or need a sponsor. Um, it's just a great place to fellowship. But today, I'm getting to talk with someone I've known a really long time. He's actually one of the first people I ever met in recovery, the first time I attempted to get sober. He's one of the smartest people I've ever met. He's an amazing example of sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, but this guy never gave up no matter what. The gentleman can talk the knickers off a nun. His story shows that if you just don't give up no matter what, the recovery is definitely possible. This is the amazingly funny, fit, and future sales seminar leader, Brandon Randis.
Uh,
Thank you so much for doing this today, man.
and no worries.
Awesome. So I know that this is not your first time in recovery. We met a long time ago at a place called the New Solution when Nancy used to run that place, and I remember that you started a one man biz op call center out of your room. Well, you basically took a cell phone and just started dialing old ladies and promising them a huge return on their investment and convincing them to give you, like, hand over their credit card information to you. However, it was the way you spoke to them that made it sound like you were working in a huge corporate building somewhere downtown, not just like sitting on the bunk bed of your halfway house. So my question is, like, how did you sell yourself the idea of recovery this time around, and what did you have to change to make that possible?
Well, you brought up a couple of great points. So let's just talk about the failures. First off, I was in a recovery house, right? I was trying to follow this new way of life, but instead I'm in my room on my bunk bed, ripping off old ladies on the telephone while my roommate watches in awe. Like getting them to max out their card, spend their entire life savings, and let's just say not acting with the most integrity. Uh, a lot of people watching this might not have known, but back in the day, about 10 years ago, if you got sober in AA in the Phoenix area, one of the jobs available for felons right off the bat was you could go to the phone room. And this is a place that I found myself time and time again because I was really good at talking. And I would automatically start making really big money. And I'd be able to buy a car and I'd be able to gain some weight. And but I didn't have to change my behavior. I could still lie, cheat, steal, womanize, do all these crazy things, right? It just never worked. So I think I went to solutions like 17 times, just that place alone, not to mention
Yeah.
dozens of other spots.
Yeah, I mean, I remember meeting you, and I remember you've always been like a super intense person. Like no matter what you did it to like the max. I remember I had never really been to the gym, and I like went with you one time, and you're like, "You're not gonna slow me down, right?" And I'm like, "No, I don't really know what I'm doing." And you're like, "I'll show you." And like you worked me so hard, I was sore for like 4 weeks. And this was 10 years ago when I wore a younger man's clothes. You know what I'm saying? So like I mean, does that intensity translate into your recovery, and does it actually help you?
To be honest with you, it translates into everything. Everybody comes to the program with a certain set of characters and personality. The point was what that did for me, it was good, is it always drove me, gave me motivation. I'm not one of those people that think that addicts don't have willpower. I'm one of those people that believe, especially for myself, I have way too much willpower. And if it's not surrendered to a power greater than myself, it ends up destroying me like the dark side of the force.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. I think that we have way too much willpower and that we don't know exactly what to do with it. Because my willpower, the things that I want to do with my willpower, even though well intentioned, always usually lead me to like smoking meth and fentanyl in some like seedy hotel room doing like weird stuff for money. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, whether that's stealing, lying, cheating, all that stuff is kind of weird, you know? But yeah, that my willpower brings me to the worst places, and I've found in recovery, I hate that saying that, we have to turn, um, or that we have no willpower and that we have to turn it all over to this God of our understanding when we first get in the room. But like, I think what it is that my willpower to not die kind of like brought me to the rooms, right? Like, isn't that a good thing at first? Like when we first notice, hey, what we want to do with our willpower isn't exactly what we're doing. what we need to be doing. So in a sense, like when we first get to the rooms, we're supposed to surrender all of this will over to a God that we don't really quite understand. But uh, for you this time around, how did that look? How did that look this time?
Well, that intensity drove me to new lows that I very, very rarely have ever heard other people speak of. If you go to the nights on the last week of the month, they share about their last week out and using. I don't think I've ever heard somebody get as gnarly as I have. So I had to be beaten, 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 get back up. About round 50, I figure about 50 serious attempts at recovery where I managed to get a month or more clean. So I had to basically come to the end of myself. It wasn't just about surrendering drugs. It was the complete, utter surrender that nothing I was ever going to choose to do, want to do, or make happen. I had no good ideas. Nothing was going to work. God, you take it. That's it. So I had to beat the whole disease part to the brink of death and beyond.
And I couldn't agree with you more on that because this time around for me it was sort of a similar experience. Like I at one point in my life thought I had some pretty good ideas, but when I came to the rooms of recovery this time around, I was completely broken. And I think that was actually to my advantage because there's a lot of people out there that come to these rooms that haven't hit their absolute rock bottom and still think they have like some pretty good ideas left. And like, I think that makes things a little bit harder for them. I think for guys like you and me who've done this a million times and like know that we're fucked, like it's a little bit easier to turn our will and our life over to a different way of living, you know?
I met you 10 years ago. Ryan Moore had paid my way to get into New Solutions. But despite the fact that I made $2,000 to $5,000 a week, I didn't have $140 to pay them my back rent. And he took money out of his slender purse to get me in there after I had just relapsed so bad that my arms exploded with sterile abscesses and were the size of the Michelin Man. And I had to be in the hospital for like a week while they gave me antibiotics to drain my arm. I couldn't bend my elbows. That's how hard I ran. And at that point, I was beaten enough to take some spiritual advice, but, I started making money and things started working out my way, and I got a car and I'm starting to lift weights and I put back on all this stuff. Suddenly, like, complete surrender. I mean, I'll agree that the drugs are a problem, but look at all this money I'm making, you know? This last time around, Tim, I'm not supposed to be here, 100%. Like, given my own devices, Brandon would have done what Brandon always does. Brandon gets sober. Brandon finds a sleazy sales job where he makes tons of money. Brandon bribes his family members with expensive gifts and lots of money and whatever I possibly can to overcompensate for the wreckage of my recent past. They finally accept me. And then what Brandon does is wrecks his entire life. This time around, I tried to find a sleazy job. I tried to get into a place that was right, that I felt like I deserved. I kept hitting brick wall after brick wall after brick wall, straight from treatment. I didn't want to go to another treatment center. I'm Brandon Randis. I'm the guy who can make money in my own freaking room. I don't need anything but a telephone. I couldn't get to another place. I had to let access literally completely gangbang me in all my accessible billing holes until I was released to the public. I had to go do another program. And I hated the place. They didn't talk about any AA stuff. They just gave you 20-year-old self-help packets. And just the place wasn't monitored. It was like just barely checking the boxes so they could get paid. And I hated it. And I tried to escape. I got a phone, an Obama phone, and I tried to call oil leads and sell somebody, but I only had like 2 hours and it didn't work. And then as soon as I got out of there, I tried again. And I kept hitting a brick wall so many times. One day I had this realization that, dude, the only reason you're still here is because nothing you planned for. That's it. And I started to develop a small amount of it. That maybe Brandon doesn't know what's going on and God does. And you know what? Instead of trying to change my situation from the outside in, I just went along with it. Things started to slowly get better. I stopped lying. I stopped cheating. I wasn't playing women. I wasn't doing steroids. I wasn't doing all the things that were blatantly not of a spiritual walk. And I just tried to do the next right thing. And next thing I know, things got a little bit better. But you know what real progress looks like, Tim? Nothing. It looks, for me at least, it looks like barely imperceptible movement, like 5 o'clock shadow. You can't even barely see it, and eventually the whole thing starts to grow in, and, it was it was like I would look just kept holding my head down, and then I look up, and suddenly I'm like, "Dude, you're about to have a year." I've been trying this for 30 years. I have. When God has pretty much came into my life and cock blocked Brandon so hard that I realized Brandon doesn't know what he's doing. It's pretty much the gist of it.
So I guess my question to you would be, what made you this time so willing to listen to God? Like, was it because you had been so beaten in the past? Because I know for guys like me and you who are retreads and, have relapsed so many times, it's a little bit harder to come back to the rooms because it kind of feels like we've heard everything before. And we're on this cycle where we get clean for a little while or until we're tired of it. And then we know we can go use again. And then we know we can just come back and get clean for a little while until we're done with that. And then we can go use again, like when we're back on our feet a little. And then the cycle just keeps repeating. But like this time around, it doesn't seem like that's the way that it's going for you. It seems like you kind of you're moving a little bit different this time. What made you make that change? Like where was the change? Like, hey, this time I'm gonna keep my head down and listen to God. Like, what made you realize that you really needed to do that?
I think it was about, let's see, my clean date is September 11th, 2024. By the time I had about 6 months, I was in a Oxford house. I had a job setting solar appointments, and they were supposed to be paying me out $80 a deal, and they weren't. I was getting all these deals and they weren't paying me. So I found another job. And I had this strange inclination that the instant reward that I was getting from all these sales jobs was probably not good for my nervous system. Needless to say, my sobriety, right? So I got a job in real estate where it would take a lot more time to get a deal. Unfortunately, that normal time frame, I started smack dab in the worst time to get involved in real estate. So um, I tried to escape and jump ship, and I kept getting cock blocked. Like, I would get hired by these jobs, and they would fire me right before I started when they did my background check, or something would happen where it turned out that I couldn't just make it work. And it just kept happening enough where I realized that the only reason anything had gotten this far with me having over 7 months of sobriety, because that was the longest I ever had before, was that none of my plans worked. And I had to start really evaluating and understanding that my plans aren't the best way to go anyway. You know what I say now when I try to get something going and then it doesn't work out? I say, thank fucking God, because there's probably a train wreck waiting to happen. Tim, I can't lie to you, man. I didn't do something different. I was the same Brandon. I just hit a brick wall. Somewhere along the line, God decided I'm going to cock block the fuck out of this guy. To give you a little background, though, there's some more things on the line here. My health. I was in a nursing home when I had third-degree burns all over my legs for like 6 weeks during COVID. And every time that I would go out there, I would run amok and end up walking around the streets like a lunatic, and my kidneys would nearly shut down. In fact, they've shut down documented like 6 times. I've had acute failure before. That was certainly a motivation, but I had that motivation before. It wasn't until I realized that my own self-will wasn't working, and it never had worked my entire life. So I started to think some of these things when I was in treatment, that the little lies, especially in the ILP I was at, where the guys would leave and go do shoplifting runs and jump over the wall to go get drunk and try to get away with stuff. And I just was like, I'm not going to hang out with anybody, nobody at all, because there's not enough supervision for this to actually be ran efficiently. I'm just going to stick to myself. So there's little changes right up front where I was willing to be more honest, but I wasn't willing to completely trust the process until I started to see it really work. And,
Yeah,
I
dude.
I
And
have
like,
15 months. I've relapsed hardcore after having a month or more sober at least 50 times in my life.
yeah, that's intense, man. That just goes to show though, like if you're really willing to do this and like you're really willing to make the change that it's possible and just not to give up on it. Um, I mean, for me anyway, this time around, like it was kind of the same thing. Like anytime I thought about using it, anytime I thought about going out, and whenever I would see the people I was with just relapsing, it just felt exhausting. Like I was just exhausted. When I like came to the rooms this time, I was just fucking exhausted. And like even to this day, when I think about relapsing, like I don't even really I think the obsession has been lifted for me, which is I thank God every day for. But even when I think about the way I used to live, it was just fucking exhausting. And I mean, I guess that's what had to happen. I had to beat myself into a state of, like, submission, you
Yeah.
know? And I think God was always there, just, like, waiting for me to, like, I was just kinda like a little child throwing a tantrum. He was just, like, waiting for me to tire myself out, and thank God I didn't die before that happened, you know?
Tim, I lost my family. I lost my careers. I lost my freedom. I lost my health. I lost my weight. I lost my home. Losing stuff wasn't gonna work for me. I could not
No, it
lose
never
my
does.
mind. The thoughts that I have now aren't about using. It's kind of rewound. Like, hey, if I get involved with this person that I know is behaving in a way that's not congruent with spiritual principles, what's the end result? Is it gonna lead me to be more spiritual, or is it gonna lead to me being more self-willish, right? Because left to my own devices, dude, I am a very short part wind away from making a disaster out of my life very, very quickly. So I'm sure that if you're still sober now, 'cause I know you've been around the block a few times yourself, Tim, those thoughts of like, "This is probably not for me," or "I'm gonna go left instead of right," it's not just about using, it's about those ancillary things that lead us back. The douchebag shit that people say in the meetings, like, "Stay out of relationships," "Try to be honest in everything you do. Do the next right thing. Don't worry," the big one for me, "Money will come when it's supposed to." The first 100 men and women said in there, "We don't think that it's gonna work out so well if he puts business matters in front of spiritual one." That's my
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, for me this time around, like, I can tell you that, like, this hasn't been, like, the most successful 22 years of my months of my life as far as, like, money goes, or as far as, like, relationships with women go, or anything like that, but it's been the most successful for me spiritually, and I feel like I've accomplished a lot more in this last 22 months than I ever have in my entire life, no matter how much money I've ever made, no matter how hot the chick I was with, no matter the stuff that I had. I mean, I know that stuff will come in time. How it will, I don't know. And like, I kind of thank God for that too, because it'll be like a nice little first experience that I get to find out then. And it'll be like a nice little surprise for me later on down the road. I'm kind of glad I don't know because it gives me the opportunity to not mess it up now, if that makes sense.
my experience in watching people, because most of the people with 10 or more years sober from the Phoenix area were probably my roommate at some point in one of the halfway houses around there, and I watched these people come in and just do what they were told and take the simple advice laid before them. And I watched them come like, if they came into the program and they were like a janitor, now they're own a janitorial supply company. Like, God starts to magnify people's natural personalities and bring them to new levels, especially when they follow the path. And I've witnessed this not like half the time or 75% of the time, 100% of the time. If somebody did everything they could to find God and followed another man's way, they got a life beyond their wildest dreams. In fact, if you were to ask them to write down all the goals you want to see happen in a year, like the first month or two, and then check back in with them a year or 2 years down the road, that list wouldn't be anywhere near what they got. For me, Tim, the integrity factor was really big, man. Those biz op rooms where I was just out there jacking people for a living, I got to find out more stuff about myself as I did the program, that I'm not really a piece of shit, that I'm not really somebody that thrives on that type of dishonesty. And then when you do something so far outside of your character, like a good person does bad things. It's not like I took any of that money and invested in the S&P 500. It's not like I took that and have NVIDIA stock. It's not like I got a bunch of cars and stuff. No, I just finally got my left vein back in my arm. That's what I got. I gave away body parts. I gave away my freedom. I gave away all. It's not like I could take that money and do anything good with it. The money I have now, I earned it, man. And when I get a fat check now, I feel good about it. Like, I have
Yeah.
integrity at my job now. It's amazing. That in itself is a miracle. Real estate saved my life like that for sure too. 'Cause it takes a couple months to see the rewards from your action. And being like an addict, I wanna get my reward now. I want what I want, and I want it now, right? And I've been able to be fed I was able to get those rewards financially, not just with drugs, but anything I pursued. So Brandon has motivation, Brandon acts on motivation, Brandon get what Brandon wants. I needed so badly not to get what I wanted, for once in my life. That this slew of bad luck I had the first 8 to 9 months of recovery was an absolute godsend.
That's incredible. And like even today, like, when something doesn't go my way or when I fall short somewhere or, I miss the mark, which I do most days, I just look at that as like an opportunity to get better. I look at that as like, what can I do to become a better person? Where in this equation did I insert myself where I shouldn't have instead of God's will? Where in this equation was my higher power, you know? And it seems to me like you've come so far. Like when I first met you, you gave me a T-shirt that said Brian Moore is my sponsor, and like made me wear it to the night and everything. And then I remember relapsing in that T-shirt and giving it to like a homeless person. So there's a homeless dude somewhere in Phoenix with a shirt that says Brian Moore is my sponsor on it.
That's absolutely awesome. Do you remember let's just kinda go through a little thought experiment here. Do you remember how I presented there? Super intense, but there were some certain holes if you really took a good look at the guy you met 10 years ago. Sure, I had a car. It was a Hyundai, a stick shift. Did I have a license? No. I went to the gym all the time. I also did a ton of steroids. I had a lot of money, but did I get it honestly? Not a dime of it. There's none of my accomplishments were real. They were all fake. And my like unwillingness to do like a 4 step honestly and change my behavior, more like a 6 and 7 step, it led to an eventual like disaster waiting to happen. Of course, these rooms would get torn down. I eventually went to jail for working at one of those places. I almost lost my freedom for the rest of my life over that. You know, now today, like that willpower, the same willpower that gets you no matter what when you want to get well, it gets you well. That same willpower today, I'm able to do things that are way dude, I do so much. I don't even know who I am. I don't have a clue. Like this person now, I wake up like at dawn and I exercise and pray and meditate and do yoga and like none of my exercising is fake. I diet properly. I sleep well. I supplement. I got my DNA tested. I like do respond. I see a doctor every couple months. Like I do normal stuff. I know that seems like really barrier like nothing, but to a guy that lived on the streets that would just come in and get a cheesy, shitty phone room job and think he was better than everybody, like, I was so full of shit, man. So full of shit.
Well, it's amazing that today that we can see that like 'cause I mean, yeah, to me, doing normal shit today feels great. Like just waking up, praying, meditating, going to work, being a productive member of society, not having to lie, cheat, or steal to make money, being in a position that like when anybody asks how my day was, I don't have to like leave anything out. I don't have to recant anything that I don't want people to know about. Because like, when you're out there doing crazy shit and you know, even in your addiction or when you're just acting out, cause like, the last time I was sober, I definitely acted out in recovery. I was not spiritual whatsoever. The last 6 months in my recovery was just not good. I had no spiritual connection, and I was acting out. There was stuff I was not telling my sponsor. My roommates were all over me. You remember Max, my roommate? He was like, "Dude, you're going in a bad way," and my response was, "My recovery doesn't have to look like yours," you know? And whenever anybody would ask me how my day was, I would lie about it. And today, I'm just so happy that I don't have to leave anything out of my day. I think that's also from doing like a thorough 10th step every day. I mean, as soon as stuff comes up, like I deal with it then and there. I don't have to wait to put it on my fourth step. I think that's super important as things crop up during the day. I deal with them as they do. And today I'm just blessed to be in a position to be able to do that. Um so I know you were saying that like you have all these blessings now in recovery. Are you living at your own place or are you still in like a sober living situation?
It's over living place. I'll probably be coming back to Phoenix soon. I gotta go to court. I'm still cleaning up the wreckage of my past. So I should be getting my license here very shortly. I have to petition one more court to get that done. And then I'll be going to the battle with the baby mama. I don't want nothing crazy. I just want to pay my fair share and get to see my kid. That was one thing. I had finally gotten to a point where I couldn't bribe her anymore, mainly because I didn't have money. Because after my last case in biz ops, all the biz op people got scared because people were going to jail for it and stopped doing it. Then everybody became a roofer, and you can't you can't wait 3 months for a paycheck when you're still hovering on the bottom of the universe, right? So I that was never gonna work for me. So I couldn't bribe my kid's mom after my relapses anymore, and she was like, "Yeah, you're never gonna see your kid again." And, I spent the last 2 years of my life, really, really messed up. I mean, it's been about 27 months since I've had contact, and I'm just going through the channels of doing everything I can to get them back, and that's obviously first and foremost in my life after my sobriety and God. Uh, so right now I do live in a Oxford house. I've been here the entire time. I have the same phone number. My credit's now over 700, which I know that's, like, not, like, a big deal, but to a guy who thought that people that bothered with credit were just stupid, um, it means a lot to me. It just means I can be trusted.
No, I mean, hey, I'm still cleaning up the wreckage of my past too with my license and my credit. It's incredible that your credit's over 700 when you probably stolen over 700 credit cards numbers and from people in your life. Like now your credit score is 700. That is pretty freaking cool. And I think it's just a testament to show that like, no matter what you're going through that like this thing is possible. You're hitting all the marks. There's a lot of people out there that are probably struggling with, getting their kids back, getting their license back, getting court stuff that they did when they were out there taking care of, and it's possible to do that sober. So the court thing, I wanna touch on that. God works in amazing ways. How has it played out for you in this court thing that you're working on? Like, do you feel like do you feel because you're sober and you have God in your life that things are gonna work out a little bit better than they would have?
No, I'm terrified. I'm scared and full of self-doubt, but I have a God that's stronger than Brandon. So, um, I was delaying things and saving money and saying, "Oh, I gotta wait till I do this and this, and then I gotta wait till I do that." And then I got another sponsor in AA who said, "I'm a real big believer in the 9th step. What are the ones you're holding back on?" And I'm like, it's not that I'm holding back. I wanna see my kid, but understand I've never had a pleasant experience in front of a judge. Never, never.
Me neither.
And of course, my mentality before was the judge's fault. These judges are bad. They're out to get me. They wanna keep me in the system. Couldn't have had anything to do with me having psychotic meth-induced incidents all over town and getting caught with drugs and being a dis no, it was the cops. They were out to get me. My last time I went to prison in 2018, the incident that led to that, cops broke his hand punching me in the face while I was handcuffed. And I, for a long time, was like, "Dude, this system, who goes to prison for having a cop break their hand on your face? Now, is it cool that a cop did that? No. But in the heat of the moment, you remember what I looked like back then. I was like 220 pounds, just raged with steroids. And I'm this whack out dude, just scary as shit. And these tiny cops try to tackle me. And I don't think they're cops. I think they've been sent by the devil to kill me. So I'm screaming in the grocery store, Help me. These aren't real cops." They finally managed to get me after like a 20-minute close contact struggle. They get me arrested. And once I'm finally handcuffed, the one guy says, "I got something for you," and punches me in the face and then does a little flurry. And then his buddy comes up and does a haymaker from like the pitcher's mound right at me. And I put my head down and his hand crumpled up on my head. And he's like, "Oh, you're going to prison." And I felt like such a victim, such a victim. How dare these cops do this? It has nothing to do with Brandon disturbing the peace, nothing to do with looking like an absolute lunatic. When I start to put myself in their shoes, I'm lucky they didn't murder me. I mean, for real. And having to address the same court system that never benefited me before, to be able to see my kids was terrifying. Obviously, like, I haven't paid money in a couple years, or this is gonna be scary. It just turns out my sponsor and me sat down yesterday, funny you said this, and we went online, and now they have these tools that help you out with legal work, like ChatGPT and whatnot. And the laws now in Arizona that if there's never been any court order made for payment, they can't go backward. They can't be like, "You never paid." They can't do it. So, guess who's gonna be doing this in the very beginning of next year? I have to go up to Phoenix, and my sponsor is gonna be giving me a ride. There's a whole process that I need to follow through, and it's gonna be terrifying, and I have to do it. That's it. I just gotta put my head down like everything else and do the next right thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's all you can where are you living at now? Like,
I'm in Tucson.
okay, that's cool. Yeah, there's a recovery center out there, America's Best Recovery. That's like the ARC Center, America's Recovery Center, ARC. I went to detox there once.
You were there?
Yeah.
Yeah, this place was so wonderful. Once they got busted for fraud about a year ago, 200 people got thrown to the street. Wasn't very, cool.
Yeah, that
Uh,
is not good.
Not good at
Um,
all.
no. And it's crazy. I've been all around the country. I've been because recently I had to go to Florida because my father passed away like a month and a half ago. I had to go to Florida and I went to a meeting out there and it's way different than it is in Phoenix. Like we've got really lucky with the recovery that's
You have
available
no
to
idea.
us here.
Yeah, but here in Tucson, there's some strong recovery here, but it's mostly blue hairs and AA. NA has more activity, but from what I've seen so far, I have a sponsor in both programs because I believe that the message is pretty much the same. God saved me, and this is how. My way doesn't work. God's way does, and here's the steps to get there. And because a broader audience of people that come from the scum bottom of the world are going to NA out here, I just felt like might as well go there too. So I'm killing both birds, and I'm going through the steps with that program too, just because I feel like there's a wider base of people, the more accepted program. But they do not have anywhere close to the unity that you guys have in Phoenix. Not even close. Not
Yeah,
even.
yeah. Everyone I've ever spoken to who's experienced recovery in Phoenix, uh, and other places has always said Phoenix is it's just different. It just hits different here, you know? And I tend to agree. You know, I've been to meetings in Florida, Texas, Tennessee. I've been to meetings in Atlanta. I've been to meetings in DC, and it's just not the same as it is here, you know?
Transmit something we don't.
Just what's available to us. And I think that's what a lot of people don't realize. You know, Phoenix is one of the worst places as far as drugs go, but it is also one of the strongest places as far as recovery goes. So there's a lot of resources out there for anyone that's struggling to, you know, get sober if they really want to, you know? It's not just a it's they don't have to do it alone either. It's not just like a dead end road, you know?
Dude, right now,
Um,
you're on the streets or you're, struggling and you want to tap out. The way the system is now, you find a telephone and you call a detox. They will send an Uber to pick you up and you're going to be able to have your basic needs met while you figure out your next step. And if you're anything like me, that might give you just enough time to maybe come to the conclusion that whatever the fuck you've been doing isn't fucking working. Maybe, just maybe, it's time to listen to somebody else's way of doing shit that's been where you're at. You can save yourself a long, long time by just doing what you're told. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, and I mean, the people that are, like, scared to go to halfway houses or scared to go to a program, I can tell you that I've had some of the best memories and some of the funnest times that I've ever had at the New Solution, to be completely honest. Like, when Nancy was running that place was I've had some amazing times there, you know? Did it keep me sober? Not necessarily, but that was my doing, not that place, you know what I'm saying? But I had great times. Like, when I first met you there, we had a lot of fun there, dude.
Do you remember
Like
Ashton? That kid Ashton that was there?
yeah, I was just thinking of how you prank called him.
Dude, that was such a great thing. So, guys, there is a public telephone. That this was a device for those of you who don't know what that is, and went on the wall and you put a quarter in and make a phone call. Well, there's this young kind of braggadocious kid that was kind of finding his way in the program, and he was just a little bit like arrogant about his way. And his name was Ashton. Ashton was like, my sponsor said I could sponsor other people. So I got his phone number and I called him from the payphone and I said, hello, this is Timothy. Is Ashton there? And he's like, yeah, yeah. I hear that you're a young guy and that you could sponsor me. I'm a young guy too. I'm from Boston. He said, oh, cool, man. Well, tell me a little bit about yourself. I said, well, I just came out here to get away from the junk. To go heroin? I said, no, my drug of choice is spray paint. Hold on a second. And then I made it sound like I was shaking up a spray paint bottle and went, what was I saying? Oh, yeah, spray paint, man. My dad was a painter. It was first the gold lacquer, then the silver lacquer. Oh, man, I'm not like these guys over here. They all do heroin and meth. I like the spray paint. And we just carried it on, and like everybody in the house knew about it except for him. It was fucking nuts. It was the funniest. I still laugh hysterically thinking about that. That probably sounds horrible to another person, but it was. I eventually could tell them.
I mean, dude, and the thing is like for people who are scared to go to treatment or scared to go to halfway houses, you're gonna meet some of the best people you've ever met there. You're gonna have the time of your life. Like I didn't get the college experience. That was sort of like my sober college experience, getting to live with a bunch of roommates and just kind of having a bunch of fun. Like we were talking earlier about the Robert Clayton thing before we started recording, how you like stole his phone. And I'll just let you tell it because you tell it so much better.
I took his phone and I preloaded on his screensaver a gangbang scene with all men. So that way, when he opened his phone, it sounded like a bunch of men having some adult fun. And he didn't know it. Then I gave it back to him. I'm like, oh, your phone died. And like, he didn't know it. And he's like, he didn't, I forget where he was, but he turned on the phone and it was like all this like really weird grunting and stuff. And like all his people seeing it. It was awesome. I used to do stuff like people all the time, man. I had a lot of fun there for sure. It's a good
Yeah,
experience.
dude. And yeah, so what is when you're out in Tucson, are you sponsoring guys and stuff out
Yeah,
there?
sponsoring people. I got one guy in the book in AA, and the NA sponsor I have is kinda he's got let's just say, I'm getting there with the NA crowd, but I get asked to speak sometimes. It's always weird, man, like, I'll go to a meeting I don't want to, and I'll speak even though I don't want to, and then next thing I know, I have to speak later on that week, and I have 2 more sponsees or something else happens. I haven't gotten anybody through anything yet here, but at least I'm doing the deal. I will say all the times I was sponsored, I may not have stayed clean, but 100% of my sponsors did.
Yeah, I was just about to say, dude, like that's happened to me this time around. Like I haven't gotten anyone through the steps, but I've tried and it's kept me clean. It says it in the book, like when Bill was like so worried about not keeping anybody else sober, and his wife was like, but you stayed sober. So, I mean, that's like God working in my life where I couldn't, and I mean, it'll happen. I'm still out there trying at least, trying to carry the message because this time around it's just different for me. Like I figure my purpose is, you know, and I've said this before. I figure my purpose around this time is to just to get men closer to God, just to get other men closer to a relationship with a higher power because I've been blessed enough to have that, and I'm not like a religious person, but like I definitely am a spiritual one, and in the sense that like uh, there's things that have happened in my life that I can't explain other than it's just a miracle. I shouldn't be here either. I've overdosed so many times. I've been in terrible car accidents. I've, almost died from health stuff. Uh, and there's just no other reason that I should be here. And it would be, I feel like I'd be, wasting borrowed time if I wasn't helping someone else.
I'm gonna steal this from somebody else, and we probably both know who this guy is. He used to share a Tuesday night meeting called The Steps We Took at the New Solutions. It turned into something much bigger later on. And at that meeting, I had a couple days clean. And I remember this is when I first met you. I was feeling good, and a thought just occurred to me that doesn't matter how good you feel, Brandon, because the day's gonna come when you're gonna get high again. Doesn't matter what you try to do. I remember being in Nancy's office and crying, fully grown man, totally broken. And I walked out of there and she said, "Why don't you go to that meeting?" I went into that meeting and this guy talked about the book. And I've heard the book talked about before. This guy talked about his experience with the spiritual experience. And you know what? I felt it. I could feel the tingles on my arm. I could feel that kind of sensation of somebody's experience when they witnessed of their experience, strength, and hope. Like I could vibe with it, man, because I had been there. And man, that little bit of juice carried me for that whole time, and now that I'm clean now, I think that's what this entire thing is about. The steps are cool on the wall, but they're really designed to make me meet a God, a power greater than myself, right? So if I tell people my story, that's it. Kind of sounds a lot like another book, not gonna mention it, but there's another book where you kind of get raised back from the dead and you tell your witness about it, and then suddenly, next thing you know, their people vibe with it and they feel the truth in it and they start wanting to know what you did. And that's the kind of experience that I had. And that's the experience I had here. Tim, I can't take credit for anything. Anything. I have to take a whiteboard and write down to remind myself to pray and do all this stuff. And I consider it a great day if I did. Dude, I'm not supposed to be here. I was in the hospital with third-degree burns all over my legs after being kidnapped and tortured, escaping narrowly with my life. Uh, I had acute kidney failure. I was never supposed to be without dialysis. I made it somehow. And then I kept going out there and doing crazy shit. So, when I finally had those realizations a few months ago, probably about 6 months ago, that Brandon, you don't know what you're doing. And this God that you haven't been willing to trust has kept you alive this entire time. Like, how are you still here? What? Like the odds when you go into a room of Alcoholics Anonymous and you just like, hey, how many people have been shot? You're gonna see a bunch of people raise their hand. How many people have been stabbed? You're gonna raise your hand. How many people here have overdosed? A bunch of people raise their hand. How many people have been in horrible car wrecks? A bunch of people raise their hand. And what you're starting to see now is mathematically, right? Because I'm a smart guy. Well, you could have survived an accident, and yeah, they missed a major artery. Okay, you start to compound this, and the odds of this being just pure coincidence start to get rather exponentially large, right? You got to get bitten by a shark while struck by lightning and hit the Powerball. You start getting to the point where 50 times you meet death and you don't. You're supposed to be here, and I really think that for addicts, we're basically I used to say this a lot. I hope nobody finds this offensive, but I'm basically God's little bitch. Like, that's it. At the end of the day, my will lead me to ruin, and God's will leads me to goodness. And every time I try to walk away, I come back on my knees begging God to take away the damage of what I did on my own. And without me being really close to God, whatever the dark forces are out there, they get me quicker and quicker than they did before. And now this time I'm in his main thing. That's a fact. And I don't care what I have to do. As long as my relationship with God is strong, all this outside stuff, I don't care. I don't care.
So, this time around, because I mean, for those of us who've been sober a couple times, we know that it's so important to have a relationship with a higher power in a as along with the 12 steps of recovery, because the 12 steps work, but I mean, you won't really be happy unless you have a relationship with a higher power. You know what I'm saying? This time around, did you have to work on the relationship with your higher power first, or did you have to work on the like sobriety aspect, or did this two just kind of coincide and you kind of did both at the same time?
I got sober. God came in my life. He took a pistol grip hold of the things going on around me so that I was given this grace period where no matter how hard I tried to run off the track, kept me back on. That doesn't mean that I couldn't have screwed up because I probably could have, but I didn't. And I'm a person, man, that after a first real good 4th step, man, I seen a huge benefit and change in my behavior. Because I used to think I was a ladies' man, but it turned out that all the behavior that I had wasn't really reflective of a strong, righteous dude. It was actually the behavior of an insecure, very scared child. And after going through that, like I couldn't carry out those behaviors anymore, tie it back in. The inventory process works, right? So I keep records, man. I'm a nerd now. I write down like pray, and that's just not like first thing in the day. I can show you in my journal the days that I plugged in to God, right? That I kept replugging in, that I put that thing first, and I can show you the overall output. You can just look at the adjectives I wrote for the day, and that was a much happier person. Yeah, deals might not have gone through, canceled contracts probably came in, but overall, this was a happy person, and you can see the evidence of it. I read it. Then you can go to the days that I got fearful and I tried to take control, and I was like, "Oh, I'm gonna lose this deal," or I gotta go do this, and the fear drove me, and those days were horrible. And I just barely managed to write down in my journal what happened, and the adjectives that go along with that, if you were to put a numerical value, equals shit. So basically, this is why I go back to the fact that I'm pretty much God's child. That's it. And either I stay close to him and enjoy life, or I'm on my own. And the record shows me that that's not a very fun experience.
No, and time again, the things that I want in my life, that I wanna take control of and make happen, are nowhere near as good as the stuff that God will just put right in front of me if I allow it to happen, you know? It's really easy to get discouraged, like you were saying, when you just keep hitting brick wall over and over and over again, but on the other side of that, people have gotta understand there's definitely gonna be something better.
When I look at it, Tim, I'm still sober. I'm a dude that couldn't even get that together, right? I couldn't even get
Yeah.
more than 6.5, 7 months. So when things don't go my way and I'm still sober, guess what, man? The bar is set so low. As long as I don't shoot meth, you know what? I'm pretty much a success. The fact that I'm not living on the streets, it shows signs of forward momentum, I'm cool with it. I'm totally cool. You've known me for
So,
less than
Brandon, you've come a really far way, dude, and I can tell that there's something different about you this time just by, like, talking to you, and I'm glad we're super glad we're both on this path, but for someone like yourself, how do you stay busy in recovery and not get bored? Because it seems to me like you're a high energy person that constantly needs to be entertained, but how do you do that in recovery
there's so much
and
work
not get
there's so much work to do. That's it. God never leaves me empty. Never. There's so much work to do. First off, the money I'm making, it's not mine. I owe back a man. There's a reason I got a 700 credit score now. I pay back people. And, I got a cashier's check to go to my ex-father-in-law this Christmas. I'm gonna send a certified mail, but um there's there's shit to do for one. For if you made half a wreck out of your life like mine, you got shit to do. That's first and foremost. And secondly, now the constant desire to have to be doing something, I don't have it. I had to always be trying to find a new girl. Remember, I used to have POF classes at the place where I would show people how to mac on chicks with plenty of fish. Like it was ridiculous. I don't do that anymore, and I don't even know what happened. I'm like, I don't. I've been single this whole time. Haven't dated at all. I'm waiting for God to put the right person because I only want one more person. I got a chance to really know what I am and what my ideals are. It turns out I'm a douchebag. I'm that douchebag I used to call everybody else. You know, I would come to these places, cheat, lie, and steal, do everything wrong, but just barely stay sober. And I thought the guys that thought less of me because I was a phone op, biz op guy who drove without a license and all this other shit, I thought those guys are douchebags, just doing what they're told. And you know what? Who's the real douchebag? I was. I was the guy that was completely fake, totally full of hot air and nothing real. There was no substance in my life. So I had to really get my values straight, man. I keep myself busy now by developing myself, whether it's physically, spiritually, or mentally. I have a whole wellness routine that makes other people think I'm nuts. I probably am. I am. I don't know.
Oh, yeah, and like you said, if you're really working this program, there's definitely a lot to be done every day. At least for me, I know that there's always something that I need to be doing, whether it's hitting a meeting, whether it's talking to my sponsor, whether it's doing something like this for the podcast, like whether it's trying to right one of the wrongs of my past. It it seems to me, like you how important is it to you to have, like, a fitness routine? How important is it to you to keep your body as well as your mind and spirit in shape?
This is for me. This isn't AA approved literature, but for me, complete spiritual wellness means that I am taking an honest accounting of my life constantly, and I'm looking for areas that I've fallen short, and I'm constantly trying to improve it. So that absolutely includes fitness, not just strength training for me. I'm like doing cardio, and fitness without diet is ridiculous. And I realize that my diet, like for me, and this might be a little overboard for some people, but I got my DNA tested so I could find out what would be appropriate for me to eat, so that I could literally make a protocol for supplementation that exactly met who I am, right? And I follow it. I had love handles. I don't know if you remember, I had really bad love handles. I was so out of my mind. I thought I was this big swole guy. I was just a kind of chubby dude that took too much steroids and worked out a lot. Like I wasn't really fit at all. I couldn't have ran a mile. I can run a mile now. I can run 3 miles. I've never really tried more, but that's pretty much what I do every day. It's super important. I do breath work every day. I do yoga every other day. Um, the yoga has been very instrumental to calming my nervous system, which, as you can tell, it absolutely was necessary. I it's just I'm not saying without it I would get high, but I like the wellness that it gives me. I like to be able to bust my ass, barely see any growth. Just I like the effect that I get from doing things that are difficult. I'm still an addict.
Of course, and I think on some level, okay, when we first get sober, the structure is a little bit scary, and I think that's what holds a lot of people back from going to these programs. They're like, "Oh, well, I have to have a curfew. I don't wanna be a grown man being told what to do. I don't" you know what I'm saying? "I wanna be able to do this, that, and the other." Everybody who gets sober has all this shit that they need to do that seems so important now that wasn't important 3 months ago when they were fucking smoking crack. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
Um, do you have any advice for people out there who are too afraid to get sober because, I've seen you, a lot of the times when I met you or, we ran into each other in the rooms, or even out there in life, um, it seemed like for those people out there that have this crazy agenda that they need to get stuff done and they feel that recovery will get in the way of that, do you have any advice for them?
Yeah, 100%. If you put God first, everything else will work out. Nothing else is more important. Nothing. Find God by no, and if you don't believe in God, just think that maybe it's possible until you start seeing some results, and you will. You're going to have to act your way into a new thinking situation. You're not going to be able to think your way into new choice. Because that's not my experience. I've never had some great thoughts that suddenly I behaved better after I thought that way. This is the same thinker that got me high 50 times after being sober for a period. Just save yourself the trouble and listen to the experience, strength, and hope of people that have come before you. There's 2 forms of wisdom. You can learn from the hard way, or you can learn from other people's mistakes, or your own. I paid bitterly for mine, bitterly, and I'm still paying. You don't have to. God's waiting for you just like he was for me the entire time. Surrendering completely is scary. I promise you're better off.
And I feel that's super sound advice, for the newcomer, especially. And I still consider myself a newcomer. I don't even have a whole lot of time. I mean, I have a couple of 24 hours, I've had longer time, but I haven't had time that's been as quality, you know. And I've said that before, today the time that I have is amazing because I'm taking suggestions from other people, which I never really did. I have a connection with a higher power, which I never really had before. Um, and I'm trying my hardest every day to just kind of become a little bit of a better person. Uh, and what happens for me anyway, the longer that I stick to that, the longer I put between myself and my last use, or myself and the last time that I've acted out, in some sort of crazy character defect way, the better I feel about myself. And I know
Yep.
that there's a lot of people out there that are like, well, when you get sober, all the fun is gone, right? How am I gonna have fun? And I guess I'm asking, like, what do you do for fun?
Honestly, everything I do is fun. I have fun with everybody I'm counting with. My job, I absolutely love my job. I don't consider it a job, it's a career. I actually get to help people solve really difficult real estate situations. I love it. I absolutely love it. And the fact that I don't necessarily make a deal with everybody, so I get to, because you have to treat everybody in my field like they're all gold, like they're all gonna end up resulting in you getting a fat check, and they don't. A small percentage do. When you're in a pipeline deal like that, where you have to nurture things all the way along the way, it doesn't make me so transactionary. I love my occupation. I love going to beaches. I love hanging out with my roommates. I love everything that I do. I don't have to go do something. I am something. Today, I have integrity. I'm a good person. My boss thinks I'm the most dependable person he's ever met. Like, dude, you don't know who the fuck I am. Like, that's the virtuous? No, it's pretty much a gun put in my head. I am blessed in that I failed so hard. Just the last vestige of belief that somehow I was gonna figure a way out of this, it's gone.
And it's incredible because, like, it kinda sounds to me like instead of always, like, running away from yourself, that today you're in a position that now that you have God in your life, you're almost okay with sitting with yourself for a little while and, like, being alright, like, not doing stuff all the time, like, you're able to kinda just sit and be with yourself. You sorta like yourself today. Is that fair to say?
Sam, I love myself today. I am proud of the person that I've become. I can honestly say full wholeheartedly, I have integrity. I am honest. I am genuine. I treat people the way I wanna be treated. I'm the kind of person I would want my daughter to date, for sure.
That is awesome because I mean and I just wanna thank you again for taking the time to talk to me, and, I'm sincerely amazed how 2 people like us were able to find recovery and put together some time that is actually, quality, and it's just one of the miracles that can happen in this program. So, if there is anyone out there struggling with this, like, what would your advice be to them? Like, what would be the steps that you took? Kinda walk me through that and, maybe an idea for them.
First, admit that you don't have it figured out. Admit that wherever you're at right now is a direct result of all the choices you made. So bad things happened to you. So somebody did you dirty. So you got the short end of the stick at the poorhouse or the baby mama or the job. So you got hurt back in high school. So you didn't make it to the playoffs. It doesn't matter. Your choices led you to exactly where you're at, and perhaps they're not working out so well. And then the second thing is I believe that every single man, woman, and child is really a good person. That there's really I have yet to meet a little baby that I'm like, fuck that baby. Punch that baby in the face right now. I've never met one. You ever met a baby? You're like, somebody better kill this little fucker. Not once. Okay. We're all born pure, man, and we get these things. And I have found that every single negative thing that I believed that would work, it all came from being scared. Being scared is not being about it person. If you're somehow delusional like I was, thinking, I'm not going to be lovey-dovey, I'm not going to be honest, I'm not going to be a chump, you're being a chump by not being honest. Because the truth is deep down in you, you're full with love, just like I am, just like everybody else is. And just be real, man. Just have a trust of faith. The program will envelop you with everything that you've been missing in your life. God will fill in the spots, and it won't look perfect the entire time, but I promise you, you will make it.
And, and that's what it's crazy, because a lot of us have had, trauma happen to us in the past or like created trauma for ourselves when we're out there using. It's just like this inherent thing that, a lot of us who are addicts have a lot of trauma and, and a lot of us don't want to face that. And, that's what I always say to people who are new. I'm just like, dude, the best advice I can give you is just get a sponsor, do the steps, and don't be a pussy. You know what I'm saying?
100 people that wrote the big book had seen World War. So your daddy used to diddle you. Guess what? Have you ever seen bodies piled stories high? Have you ever held your best friend's brains and then your next best friend's? Have you ever had to wade through dead bodies? Have you ever seen the accompanying flies? I'm sorry, but they never mentioned it in there, did they? I don't think they did. I don't. You ever really? I trauma's great, but trust me, it's still all God's stuff. Give it to him.
Exactly. And, man, yeah, and it's just incredible, man. Like I just want to say, it's so cool that you've tried and tried and tried, and like you just never stop coming back. I mean, did you? Was that one of the? I know it's one of the cliches in the room is just keep coming back. Was that something that you listened to, or did you find yourself having to just keep coming back because you put
Oh,
yourself in positions?
nobody else wanted me around. Family didn't want me around. Cops wanted me around, but not the way I wanted to be around. There's nobody else that wanted me. Unless I had drugs or whatever, there is nothing else left for me. I'd love to tell you that I had this amazing persistence that one day I'd make it. I never believed I'd make it. Never. Never. I always knew I'd be fucked up. And today's the day that I can honestly say that it's a very small chance. Not saying that I couldn't screw up in the future. I know I could. In fact, I know I probably would. That's why I hold really close to God. And as a result, man, I have a way better life than I ever. I have more money in the bank than I did when I made like 3 times as much money. I have more money in the bank now. How is that even possible? Like, what? That doesn't make sense. It's because I earned that money. I earned that doing good things. I feel good about that money, so I don't have to waste it. I don't have to destroy my life because I acted outside of who I really am. I'm a good person. I get to keep it all now.
That's incredible, man. And I just want to say thank you again for talking with me today. And I can't wait to see you when you get back to Phoenix. You
I'll
know?
be sure to edit this to make me look racist. Thank you.
I will. I mean, you're already a handsome guy. So like, it's gonna be hard. I'm gonna have to edit to make you look less handsome than me. I'm a little
I have
intimidated here.
occasional fighting in my room just to make sure that that's a good side. But
Well, I love you, bro, and thank you for taking the time tonight.
I'm so happy that you're alive and doing well, Tim. You don't know, like, I love it because we all see everything when we get to Facebook. Oh, this is happening. And then to see you glowing and smiling and chubby and just happy, dude. I fucking love it.
Yeah, dude, it's pretty great. I'd rather be fat and sober and like happy than like skinny and sucked up and messed out.
I love you, Tim.
I love you too, bro. You have a great night, man.
You too, man. Bye.
All right, later.